The Indiana Hoosiers really hit it in the transfer portal. The worst problem they have is trying to figure out which players will actually have the biggest impact, because there are a lot of them.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome on into this crossover, Locked On Hoosiers and Locked On the Portal. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. That is Jacob Goins, host of Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you for making each of our shows a part of your day, each and every day, right here on the nation's #1 sports podcasting network. That would be Locked On. We truly appreciate it. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at 5 Hour Energy. You can have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back, and no fork is needed. Vanilla, cakey flavor, caffeinated kick, no sugar. It is party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or over at Amazon. We're going to discuss Indiana's schedule. It is really lopsided in terms of when the key games are.
Yeah, that's a way to put it. Yeah.
And it is a very odd schedule, even though it is in the Big Ten. We'll talk about that a little later. Indiana's backup quarterback. I have open-endedly not looked at it because I have no idea how in the world it's not going to be Hoover, but it is important to get him reps while he's running the new system, but still finding a backup. How do we do that? Who is it going to be? We'll talk with Jacob about that. But the first part of the show is just something fun. You've heard myself, Jacob, and other people talk about Indiana's transfer portal class. It's really good. It is really, really good. I'm not even going to talk about Marsh or Hoover because they're probably the two best players they got in the portal this year. Or are they? It depends on your definition of it. So instead of that, I'm going to give a little over-under kind of theory to this. Which guy are you taking? It's, by the way, they're all good. Which one's going to have more production? Jacob can take this any direction he wants, but here's what I got for you. First one, running back, and I think he's going to be really good for Indiana in this system, Turbo Richard.
Yeah.
Would you rather take him if you could only have him, or Wisconsin offensive line transfer Joe Brunner? It's harder to get linemen. It's harder to get linemen.
Man.
In Indiana, that's the only – did I miss something? That's the only lineman they took. Like, they believe in that dude, or they wouldn't have just taken him.
Yeah, they do believe in him because Indiana feels like you have 4 returning starters on the offensive line. Depending on – you're going to have to move some pieces around, but you feel like that, including Carter Smith on the left side, who is maybe one of the best in the Big Ten, one of the best in college football. But – man, that's a tough question. And Brian did not tell me this before the show. He told me what we were doing, but he didn't tell me which players we were talking about. God, man, Joe Brunner is so talented, man. He's a guard. He's probably going to play on the right side, 6'5", over 300 pounds. I mean, this guy is built like a Big Ten offensive lineman.
Yes,
but you mentioned it. Turbo Richard is just phenomenal and has every chance to be RB1, RB2, or whatever the rotation looks like, because Indiana is losing Roman Hemby and Kalon Black. They're both going to the NFL. They're participating in some things right now. Kalon Black actually not at the combine, which I think is just horrifically bad, but it is what it is. He'll prove somebody wrong, and somebody will be very happy to have him on their NFL roster. But you bring back Lee Beebe Jr., right, who got injured early a year ago. The UAB transfer is going to be a lot of fun. And then you got Kobe Martin, who's in there, who ran extremely hard last year on top of this guy and Turbo Richard. So unfortunately, as much as I love Turbo and how awesome his name is for a running back, I have to take Brunner. I have to take Joe Brunner because he's a starter on the offensive line. You know what you're going to get out of him, and we understand how important that is in Big Ten, big boy college football, right? Indiana from 2024 to 2025, the biggest difference was the interior guys on both sides of the football, Brian, but especially up front. You went and got a starting center, a couple of starting offensive linemen, and you won the national championship. So I'm always going to pick the dudes up front. I'm going with Joe Brunner, the guy from Wisconsin, the interior offensive lineman. He is a stud. And if I had to choose one, I'm going with Joe Brunner.
I would actually agree with you on that because it's hard to find linemen. It's just that simple. It's harder to find linemen. Second question, and again, you can go any way you want with this. They got 3 transfer defensive ends.
Oh, don't make me do it. They're all so fun. They're all so talented.
And I'm just going to try to pronounce their names. I know Joshua Burnham's pretty easy. He's the transfer from Notre Dame.
I can help you out. I got it. I've talked enough about him. I can do it.
Go right ahead. Go ahead.
Well, both of them were for Kansas State. The guys who have some interesting names are really awesome. Chidi Obiazor, and then you have Tobi Onsunsami. Okay, those are your two guys. They're built, just massively. We'll start with Tobi Onsunsami, who committed 6'3", 250, the edge from Kansas State. Okay, he committed, and I said, man, this guy's built like a refrigerator, but he moves like a cat. He just gets after the football, hand in the ground, stand up and stare you in the eyes. He doesn't really care. He will get after the quarterback, get after the football. He is see ball and get ball. And then on the same day, his buddy, Chidi Obiazor, committed, who's built like an 18-wheeler, built like a semi-truck, 6'6", 275. So you've got those guys on the outside. Plus, as you mentioned, Josh Burnham as well from Notre Dame, 6'4", 260. You've got a little bit of everything. You've got the size, you've got the height, you've got the speed, you've got everything there. Plus, you've got dudes who have played P4 football before. This is not a major jump up. This is not like a bright, the lights are too bright type of thing. These guys can play some football. And Indiana now has an abundance of guys at that position. You had to go and fill some spots. You lost a bunch of dudes to eligibility in the NFL. You went and got 3 dudes who can start, play significant snaps, and you just close your eyes and pick one, and they're all going to be dominant for you on the defensive line. So you got some interior guys, these dudes on the outside. So you're making me pick one? Is that what I'm hearing, Brian? I got to pick one?
If you want, you could rank them. You could do it another way, but
gosh,
I have a definitive answer for you here, actually.
There's an
NFL draft answer to this.
Josh Burnham is first, I believe. Josh Burnham is one. I think for me, because he's just kind of got the whole package, I'll then go with, I don't know. I'll go with Obiazor. I'll go 6'6", 275, Chidi Obiazor. Then I'll go Tobi Onsunsami. But I ask for the right to change my answer later on. That's what I ask for.
I would go with Obiazor first, just because, again, the size thing. You can't teach 6'5", 6'6". It is more difficult to find strong side ends that are that athletic than just about, like, you don't really rank them. They're hardly ever go high in the draft because there are hardly any of them that have that kind of size. So Burnham's a really unique guy. Like, he had to rotate at Notre Dame because he had a lot of guys. He was still really good, but I'm not sure he's even tapped his potential yet. Third question is a little more easy, at least for me. You probably know more about these guys. It's kind of a trick question. Would you rather have Quan Sanks, Preston Zachman, or A.J. Harris? Ooh. It's an interesting question because 2 of them are safeties. One's a corner. I think A.J. could play safety. But Indiana lost different kinds of pieces, so it depends on not just how good you are, how much do you think each player will impact the Hoosiers defense?
Yeah, and again, 3 more players that are coming from P4, right? You're coming from Cincinnati, Wisconsin, and Penn State. The obvious answer for me is A.J. Harris, the Penn State corner, who, I think he has a chance to be first team All Big Ten. I think he has All-American potential at Indiana, especially in a Bryant Haynes defense that has so much trust, so much loyalty, and especially at that corner spot where you kind of are on an island and you're expected to make a play, get the football, and not get beat deep. I think if he can be a D'Angelo Pons type of player, which on film he has the ability to do that, he just has to be given the reins a little bit. I think if A.J. Harris can put all that together, I think he's a carbon copy of what Indiana saw with D'Angelo Pons. So I'll take A.J. Harris. But the other guys are very good too. Again, excited for what the secondary will look like. It'll be new, but it's still very talented for the Hoosiers.
I agree with your pick of Harris. But the way Indiana can do different things with how they blitz and how they use guys in the slot, it makes it pretty easy to look at it from a broader perspective and say, well, maybe in one game it's Harris, but another game it might be one of the other guys. And they've done such a good job with the portal. It makes me question all my decisions because they take guys other people don't want, and then they're great. Right. So it's a good problem to have. When we come back, Indiana will have Josh Hoover behind center. Does anybody other than Jacob have any clue who the backup or backups will be? We're going to discuss that right here on Locked on Hoosiers, crossover with Locked on the Portal. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy. There's something for everybody, no matter what you like. The board's set, flavors are ready, and I've got my number one pick for the 5 Hour Energy Draft. I'm a pretty basic guy. I like snow cones, and blue raspberry is always going to be my first pick. That's the end of the story. That's how it is. I do like some others. The cotton candy, it's got some interesting flavors to it. It's got a little vanilla in it. It's got some sweet. That's interesting. I like peach mango, but they still don't go up to number one for me, blue raspberry, but there's still grape. There's cherry. There's all kinds of different things. Whatever it is you want, find your new favorite flavor at 5 Hour Energy Shots, available at 5hourenergy.com or over at Amazon. We are also brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Make sure you check it out because the Game Time app gives fans the advantage and all the opportunities that you want instead of some of the other apps. I know because I have used Game Time not once, but twice to go watch Indiana basketball games, ironically, here recently. And the best part, with all the buzzer beaters, Big Ten tournament, and everything coming up, bracket busters, all the unforgettable moments, they are better if you see them in person. And instead of dealing with all those long queues and everything else, check out the Game Time app. It gives fans the advantage, and it's how you unlock amazing tickets and experience the games live. And the best part, the fees are all up front. What you see at the beginning on the Game Time app is what you will get. You got zone deals on there. You can see your seat from your phone. Actually click on that, and then you will see it on your phone. It is awesome. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Make sure you also check out the Everydayer Club down below, whether it's Jacob or myself. We've got a special deal for you, $5 or $50 for the year. Up to you. Audio podcasts with no ads. And there's a Discord and more. Check out the Everydayer Club. There is a description down below with a link that will explain in more detail. All right. I'm not going to make this real difficult. I have no idea what's going on with Indiana's backup quarterback. I haven't gotten that far. Once I knew they got Hoover, they were going to try to invest in him to get the turnovers down and get Hoosiers back into the playoff. I didn't pay any other attention. What are you hearing? Obviously, Mendoza's younger brother, Alberto, has decided to transfer to Georgia Tech. Mm-hmm. What's the word in Bloomington?
Well, that was the word for a while, right? Josh Hoover, here, let me back up even further, right? There was optimism, but false optimism that, well, maybe Fernando will come back. Maybe he won't go to the NFL. Stop. We knew he was going the whole time. He's the number one overall pick in the draft. He still had eligibility, yes, but he was always going to leave. We were trying to speak it into existence. It just didn't work. So then the conversation was, okay, is it Alberto, who played a lot of football this past season? Because, Brian, as you know, a lot of fourth quarters were blowouts for Indiana, especially on their way to a national championship. And so Alberto had the experience, just not the experience Indiana was looking for the starter in 2026. So it was no secret to me. It was no secret to those involved. Indiana was going to get a transfer portal quarterback. And there were several options out there, and they landed on Josh Hoover, and I think he was the perfect fit. I really, really do. I'm not just saying that because it's the one that Indiana got. I'm saying it's the one that Indiana wanted, and it's the one that Indiana got. The way that he plays, the pro-style passer that he is, yeah, he's got some turnover problems, but I think Indiana will be able to fix that. All the pressure will not be on Josh Hoover at Indiana like it was when he was the signal caller at TCU. It's just not going to be the same type of offense, and he won't be the only playmaker on his team. That'll be the difference for him. So Josh Hoover is 100% going to be your guy. Then the conversation was, okay, well, Alberto will be the backup, right? No, they had these conversations. They knew what was going to happen. These happened before Indiana ever made the national championship game. They knew what was going to happen here. So Alberto goes to Georgia Tech, and I think he's going to be good down there. We wish him the best of luck. So here's your situation, okay, in the quarterback room for Indiana. Josh Hoover at the top. You've got one graduate senior and then a bunch of new guys, a bunch of young puppies in there. You've got Grant Wilson, who is your graduate senior. He's been in the program for a while, transferred from Old Dominion. He's been here for a little bit, okay? Then you have several guys in here as redshirt freshmen. The two I want to tell you about, Jacob Bell and Tyler Cherry. Jacob Bell, 6'2", 213 pounds. He's from Illinois. He's coming in very athletic, very raw, has a ton of potential. Then there's Tyler Cherry, who's also a redshirt freshman, 6'5", and 220 pounds. He's a four-star quarterback recruit out of high school, one that when he committed and signed to Indiana, it was a big deal because the Hoosiers had not yet gone on to win it all. They had just made the playoff. They had only had one success story at quarterback with Curtis Rourke. So Tyler Cherry took a chance, and now he's got a chance to be the backup. So I think it'll be between Grant Wilson, the graduate senior, and the redshirt freshman Tyler Cherry, just because of the arm talent that Cherry has, the potential that Cherry has. So at that point, Brian, you either go with a guy who's at least been around, doesn't have a ton of playing experience, or you go with the super raw freshman and see what happens. All of that, of course, if something goes wrong with Josh Hoover, which God forbid that happens. But that's kind of my evaluation of it right now. We'll learn a lot more come spring when we get some guys on the field and have some reps and see what's going on, talk to Cignetti and things like that. But that's kind of my feeling on the backup situation right now for Indiana.
It sounds like they put all their money at the front and they said, if it doesn't work, then it's just not our year. Which is
what they did last year, though. I mean, if Fernando had gone down, Indiana doesn't win the national title. I mean, that's plain and simple, right?
Yep. I think that's what everybody's kind of doing. I'd heard Indiana wouldn't invest a lot of money in high school recruits. I got that from a parent of a recruit. Like, they want guys with experience, and they'll still bring guys along, but it's probably not going to be until your third year you get a chance to play. I'd imagine they'll probably have a competition next year. I imagine Hoover will turn pro after next year and have a happy life thereafter, and they'll kind of go on from that. But anything else with that room, like, do you think they should have taken another guy that had at least a little bit of experience? I just don't think you can get that guy anymore. But every now and then somebody gets me like, okay, look at the situation at Oregon. That is bizarre.
Huh. Yeah, that's wild. That situation. Don't get used to that. Don't get used to having two starting quarterbacks on the roster at the same time. That's not going to happen. No.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page because, to be honest with you, outside of Oregon, nobody had two transfers with guys with that kind of experience. And I'm not sure we will see that again in my life. Like, it's really that wild. But
I will say this, though. For Indiana, it's very exciting because Mike Shanahan is still there, your offensive coordinator, right? Him and Brian Taines. Both coordinators got extensions. Brian Taines on defense is making over $3 million a year. Like, that's pretty impressive. I think Shanahan, off the top of my head, I believe it's 1.5, could be flirting with 2, which for an offensive coordinator is a lot of money, right? But what's exciting is Indiana, you lost your quarterbacks coach and your co-offensive coordinator. That's unfortunate. He's going to the NFL, but Tino Sunseri is back. Tino Sunseri has returned to Indiana, who was your co-offensive coordinator and your quarterbacks coach in year 1 under Curt Cignetti with Curtis Rourke, who came from Ohio, became a superstar in Indiana, made the college football playoff. For those who don't know, he left to go to UCLA and take a step up and be the offensive coordinator in Los Angeles. That obviously didn't go well. He got fired after 4 games because the head coach got fired after 4 games, and he just made a mistake going out to UCLA, but he's back at Indiana. And I love Tino Sunseri. I made a big stink about this when he left the first time, not bashing him, trying to tell people how big of a blow this was. You were able to make up for it. He is now back in Bloomington, and he'll be coaching Josh Hoover in the entire quarterbacks room. So keep an eye on that. Tino Sunseri, man, that dude, I think he'll be a head coach one day. I really, really do. I think he's talented enough, smart enough, and he's young. He's got a lot of career left in college football on the sidelines, does Tino, and he's back in Bloomington coaching the quarterback. So keep an eye on that for Indiana this season.
When we come back, we're going to discuss Indiana's unusual 2026 schedule. That is next here on the Portal Podcast crossover with Locked On Hoosiers. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Coast. Coast Pay is giving Locked On College listeners up to $2,000 credit for your business when you get started today. If you manage a crew such as construction, HVAC, landscaping, anything basically that operates with a truck on the road. You already know how messy and how materials spending can get. Cars get shared, receipts disappear, month-end returns, they turn into a headache. CoastPay fixes each and every one of those every time. CoastPay is the modern fuel card and expense management tool built specifically for fleets, fuel, maintenance, materials, all in one card with real control and instant visibility. Every transaction shows up the moment it happens. No surprising. If somebody fuels up at an odd time or tries to buy something they shouldn't, you're going to know about it right away. Real-time alerts, so you always know what spending's happening. Automatic receipt capture that makes month ends simple. Coast is the way to roll. Right now, Coast is also offering listeners, again, $2,000 credit when you get started at coastpay.com/locked-on-college. coastpay.com/locked-on-college to see how you can earn up to $2,000 in credit. Terms apply. Coast Visa commercial credit card issued by Celtic Bank. All card accounts are subject to credit approval. All right. Last segment here, Jacob.
Take it easy on me. Just take it easy.
This one's actually easy. I have something I'm going to throw at you at the end that you won't like, but it's just an extra shot.
Okay.
It's just an extra shot. But
you're an IU guy, man. Why are you jumping on me today?
It's just the first segment was fun. I thought it was.
It was fun. It is fun.
Indiana's schedule is just weird. They obviously don't want to play anybody outside of their conference, but it's ironic because they had scheduled North Texas, and if Drew Mestemaker comes back there, that's a different situation. He transferred with Eric Morris to Oklahoma State. No offense to the Mean Green, they're probably going to get mowed over. I don't like their chances. Howard can be a decent program sometimes. Western Kentucky's interesting. They've played Indiana many times. Yep. All three of those games are at Memorial Stadium in Bloomington. After that, the first part of the Big Ten slate is pretty low-hanging fruit. Northwestern at Rutgers. You should be at that point 5-0. The wild card game, and I mentioned to you this before the show, is Rutgers, and that's the October 3rd game, because after that you come home. Even if you win big, you go and you play Nebraska another road game. So you come home, you travel again. The Rutgers game, if you can get a good lead and win all that, it's great. But Nebraska's a tough place to play. They're Memorial Stadium. I know they're not what they used to be. Yeah. And Anthony Calandria, he can throw it around good and bad. He had 3,500 yards passing last year. He's a pretty good quarterback. I don't know if they're going to have the offense overall to be great, but they're a good program. You screw around, you could lose that game. That's the wild card. And that game is the week before you host Ohio State.
Yeah.
That 3-game stretch is weird. Road game, Ohio State. And then you got Michigan after that. It's just an odd group.
Yeah.
What do you think Indiana is going to be able to do? I would trust it with Mendoza because he just seemed to be about as even keel as anybody as I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what Hoover's going to be. No offense to TCU. They haven't been on the stage like that since he's been behind center. Is it going to work out well? Because if you jack around at Nebraska, if you lose the Nebraska game, you're in danger of not making the playoff because you still got Ohio State, Michigan, you still got Washington. Yeah, it's a little bit dicey. Are you at least concerned about the schedule right there in the middle? Because it's all just boom, 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 boom. Everything happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to be worried about it, I guess, but it's just lopsided, right? I wish it wasn't this way. And Indiana is at the forefront of getting railed and getting made fun of, right? Even if they even when they did win the national championship, because the front end of the schedule is just so easy and it's weak and it's boring. I get it. I don't like it. I, the host of Locked On Hoosiers, am not a fan of how Indiana football is scheduling non-conference games, but they just proved, Brian, you don't have to schedule hard non-conference games if you want to win a national championship. And they also proved that it may be more beneficial to not do that, which I don't like it. I would love for Indiana to replace the Howard game with another P4 opponent. Give us an SEC team. Give us a Big 12 team. Let us play some team from the ACC. I would love that, but Indiana's not going to do it. And Curt Cignetti has made that very clear. So as you mentioned, you've got North Texas, Howard, and Western Kentucky. Okay, you're going to steamroll those teams, and whoever that backup quarterback is that we talked about, they're going to play a lot of football in those 3 games. You then have Northwestern at home, Rutgers on the road, and at Nebraska. I understand Nebraska could be sneaky. I just don't trust them. The expectation is to start 6-0 and not to sweat a single one of those. That is the expectation as the defending national champions, is to roll over those first 6 opponents. Then it gets dicey. It gets fun. Then, halfway through the season, we can start to get excited and crank up the heat a little bit. Ohio State in a Big Ten championship game rematch comes to Bloomington in our Memorial Stadium, which will just be insane. That'll probably be the game of the week and game day and all that. You then go to Michigan. So you still don't have your bye week in there. You go on the road to Ann Arbor. What is Michigan going to be? Couldn't tell you. Kyle Whittingham will have them ready to go and playing in that game. You host Minnesota. Then you take your bye week. Then 3 more games. USC at home, at Washington, and then home for Purdue. 10-2 is bare minimum to me, Brian. Even saying so late February, early March, 10-2 is my expectation there, because I look at 4 games. I look at Ohio State, Michigan, USC, and Washington. 4 out of those 5 in there. Minnesota in a bye week squeezed in between. I look at those 2, and I think you have to split those somehow, some way. I don't really care how you do it. I'd love to beat Ohio State at home. Would love to beat USC at home. And then if you can steal one on the road, cool. Then you're better off and you're going to be just fine. So, yeah, the schedule's a little worrisome, but I think you're going to be playing your best football by October, which is when all of those games are played, and then into November. And Indiana's roster is just absolutely loaded. And remind me, Brian, is Curt Cignetti still our head coach?
Yes.
He is? Okay. Then no, I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all.
There's only one other thing that I want to note. This has been around forever, especially for gamblers. When college teams play 6 or more games in a row without a bye, it's usually bad. Indiana starts with 9 games. Yeah. They got hosed on that. That's the one part of their schedule, and it's the end of it. It's the tough part. Makes me feel really nervous about the Ohio State Michigan, because they're going to be dragging. So that's my one concern, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Probably the Michigan game on the road in Ann Arbor. Coming off the Ohio State game, that's your first big game of the year. Then having to get on the plane and hop and go to Ann Arbor. Yeah, that's the one for me to circle, is that road game at Michigan. Because, again, we just don't know what they're going to be, but they're going to be a hard-hitting squad. Again, Whittingham is their head coach. He is he is a fantastic coach. They will get up and get ready. I don't care if they're winless at that point. They won't be, but they will get up and be ready to go for an Indiana team where you lose back-to-back games. Then you're talking about winning out and things. I mean, it can get dicey there. So circle the Michigan game on that Indiana schedule. Absolutely.
Jacob, tell everybody where they can find your work, my friend.
Yeah, Locked On Hoosiers, same way you find the Portal Podcast, man. We're rocking and rolling the Locked On Podcast Network. It's #1 for a reason, so come check us out. We're talking Indiana football. Unfortunately, we are talking basketball too, because every day's a mystery, Brian. Some days we're in the tournament, some days we're not. Some days we beat Purdue, and some days we lose to Northwestern at home. So you just never know what you're going to get.
I'm not going to comment on that. You can find the Portal Podcast wherever you get your pods. Spotify, Apple, Podbean, YouTube, and of course, Apple. Everybody have a good one. This has been a crossover Locked On the Portal and Hoosiers.